Suit up, strap in, warm the tires, and leave on yellow. Time for the MitsuTimes podcast. Presented by MitsuTimes.org, the home of the fastest Mitsubishi cars. With your host, Josh.
Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Josh from MitsuTimes. My guest today is Jordan Whitman. He is the owner and driver of the number 4 Ralliart on our Ralliart list. How you doing today, Jordan?
Hey, man. Doing pretty well, man. Yourself?
I'm great, man. I wanted to just put in a little caveat. Jordan is actually the quickest Ralliart that's not backed by a shop. So there's that.
It's definitely been a challenge. Been a challenge there.
A win's a win, though.
I'll take the win any day.
So, Jordan, the Ralliart, I don't know if the right word is underappreciated, underloved, misrepresented. I'm not sure, but it's not a favorite, and maybe a lot of it has to do with the transmission. I don't know, but what's your take on the Ralliart platform?
Yeah, definitely underappreciated, underloved. Many times you always get the, hey, man, that's a nice Evo. And when you break it to them, oh, man, it's actually not an Evo, it's a Ralliart. And you kind of just sometimes see the disappointment in their face. But a lot of people, they don't really understand the Ralliart. Neither did I when I first got mine. So, I think the biggest downfall on it, not downfall, downside is, going just back from the old days, it's an automatic sports car, and when there's a manual option available, that's kind of where people lose the interest in it. So I think that's kind of where majority of it comes from.
Yeah, I think the dual clutch was supposed to be like this revolutionary thing, and I think for the most part people are just having a hard time accepting that.
Yeah, the thing, it's a more entry level, cheaper vehicle to start with. However, a lot of people don't look too much into it when they find out the upgrades and repair costs for the transmission. Where it's given up on.
Can get quite pricey. So, Jordan, let's talk about the setup on your Ralliart as it sits now.
Currently sits, it's actually on jack stands. But as far as the full setup, it's basically just everyday parts available to everybody. Actually have the MAP spec stage 1 short block.
Okay.
It's just, upgraded pistons, rods, stock sleeves, Kelford 214B cams with the Kelford springs. The transmission is built by Cosmic. I got the 12 disc setup. For that, just hit up Taryn one day and was like, "Hey, man, I want to make somewhere around 600 horsepower. What can you do?" And he's like, "Send me the transmission, and I got you." So that was probably the easiest transaction there. Fueling, radium double pumper with dual 450s and ID 1700 injectors. Probably a little bit overkill, not overkill, but definitely like having the headroom, especially with the heat out in AZ.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Want to make sure there's never going to be a slacking portion on the fuel. Then other than that, just basic bolt-ons, intercooler piping, uprated intercooler, MAP downpipe, and the turbo is built by AGT or Gennari. I have his 62 millimeter option. It's actually one of the older ones when he was doing the Garrett style compressor housings, and I have that currently on his billet 25 psi wastegate with the stainless steel single scroll housing.
Dang. That's awesome that companies like that are, making a lot of cool options for even a platform that's underappreciated.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely exciting to see, more and more engagement in it, and just more and more of the friendly competition, like seeing the friendly competition, just seeing who can push it a little bit more.
Yeah. So Jordan, thinking back, we talked a little bit earlier. You said this is your first Mitsubishi. What was it about the Ralliart that got you into, made you want to purchase it?
Probably same story as many. I was looking for an Evo, and at the time, they were still fairly expensive. I think I've had the car for 8 years now, so I bought it in 2015. So just looking around, and I was like still telling myself if I really wanted to spend $25,000-$30,000 on the car.
Yeah.
And at the time, I was wanting to purchase a house and have kids soon and stuff like that. So one day my friend actually sent me a message. He was like, "Hey, come check this car out," and he sent me a picture. And I was just like, "No, dude, I'm not buying some turbo base model like from the dealer." And then he's like, "No, it's a Ralliart." And I'm like, "What is that?" And I was like, because I didn't want to buy someone else's project or a car that was already
inherit someone else's problems.
Yeah. So he's like, "No, it's a Ralliart," and I'm like, "Well, the Ralliarts don't come turboed." So yeah, that's when I found out about the Ralliart platform, and so I went and did a test drive and was like, man, it was pretty cool. And it was actually it was a 2014. It was like 9 months old.
Oh wow.
So the prior kid only had like 7,000 miles on it, and I think he bet off a little bit more than he could chew because he had a payment. It was like $1,200 a month or something like that, so he had to give it up.
No telling what his
insurance was. So it was very,
was.
very clean. Yeah, very, very clean. It was fully loaded, had the SSS, and it was a touring package, so it was like fully heated leather seats.
Wow.
Sunroof. It didn't have the typical Ralliart spoiler, so it kind of just has a little duckbill, and the SSS headlights. So Rockford Fosgate and the touchscreen and all that. So I was actually pretty cool and went and drove it, and I was like, you know what? This is about half the price of an Evo, and I think I can do some pretty cool things to this. That's where it started.
Heck yeah. So when you got it, it was still pretty much new shape.
Yes, the only thing it had on it was a Borla catback.
Okay.
And that was it. I guess I had one of those JDM Hot Boy tow hooks on it.
Gotta have those. So, Jordan, I want to talk about the different setups you've had on the car over the years, especially ones that have worked well for you. That way, if somebody out there is listening, they have Ralliart, and they just want to get a little bit more, maybe they can look into kind of matching a similar setup as yours.
Yeah, so I've been through a bunch of setups. First one was obviously, just the typical bolt-ons. Grabbing the upgraded intercooler piping, upgraded intercooler. I did end up doing an ETS intake, which was kind of a little tough at the time because the Ralliart battery is actually in the engine bay. So, everybody would always say, hey, it's not worth it doing an intake. You're not going to get any gains from it, and then you got to do all this extra work. So I kind of just wanted the battery, big, huge battery out of the engine bay.
Yeah.
So just got a small battery, ended up doing the ETS intake, had to get a different coupler, and ran that for a little while. Actually went through the cop access port, which I definitely do not recommend. A little uneducated at the time. Ran the cop access port for a couple years. And then ended up ditching that and went flex fuel on the stock turbo. That got me, a little bit more power, a little bit more enjoyable, but was just still missing something. So from there, I went and did the 20G, the T04 from Chris Robbins.
Okay.
That gave me a nice jump in power as well. I think it was around like 400 horsepower. So it was like 100 20 horsepower jump in power, you know. So definitely took the time to enjoy that. And basically after that, just there's a lot of Evos out here, but there's like zero Ralliarts. So I was like, okay, now it's time to give some competition and try to keep up here. So enjoyed that turbo for a while and ended up reaching out to AGT Art Janari. Moment I reached out to him, he just flooded me with a bunch of information and answered any questions that I had. So I ended up going with his 62 millimeter turbo. At the time, I had just purchased a new house too, and actually got into one of the RV garages so that way I can have an excuse to tear apart a car and have room.
There you go.
So literally the moment we moved in, I trailered the car into the garage, backed it up, and that's when everything just got done to the current setup now.
Heck yeah.
Purchased the motor from MAP, sent the transmission out to Cosmic at the same time, and then also worked on the turbo setup with Janari at the same time. And yeah, ran with his 62 millimeter turbo. I didn't think I was kind of going to be anywhere where I was at now. But it's just never ending, always finding additional parts that can possibly help out and constantly changing. So definitely appreciate the tuner as well, Rick Riemann, for having the patience and my constant questions. And hey man, if I swap this out, will this work a little bit better? What do you think about this? So it's just a constant change, and I guess just trying to see, what actually does work sometimes or what doesn't.
Yeah. Jordan, so one thing I was wondering on your build is why did you stick with the stock frame turbo and not do like a T3 or a T4 or something?
I've actually always been a big fan of like the stock frame setups, especially back, on the 8s and 9s,
yeah,
like the FPs. Ideal setup was always like I always wanted to do an FP red, with the single scroll housing. That was just my most favorite setup on an Evo 8-9. Coming to the 4B platform, there wasn't any single scroll housings. So that kind of came to the point of, if I wanted to do a stock frame upgrade or just kind of go full frame.
Yeah.
At the point, honestly, it was just cost at the time. Just wanted a little bit more power. And in my mind, I always thought, a full frame was just going to be too much power, especially with the SST. So I figured stock frame would be a good point to start and kind of just, get used to the increased power and see what would be needed after that. So that's when just did a lot of research and, came across Janari, AGT. Talked with him for a while, and actually that's what kind of gave me the decision on doing the stock frame route. He was also informed me that he was getting into production and designing the open scroll housing, so figured that would also give me, the boost down the line as well of, once I get the itch for more. And yeah, just go from there. And kind of now I'm kind of I'm very glad I did decide to stick with the stock frame route. Just seeing all the enhancements and upgrades that are now available, and how much further that it's pushing the platform.
Yeah.
I feel like that's been the big push there to get, especially just getting a lot more people involved and kind of showing, with the proper setup, it can do some great things.
Heck yeah. Have you had to do any driveline upgrades?
Everything is totally stock.
Okay.
Basically just like full suspension. I don't know if I say that helps out. I don't know if it really, does help it or not, but just full, white line sway bars and links. You got your tow rods, white line differential bushings. So that's to me, I feel like that's kind of helped out too. But again, rolling the dice now pretty much every time. But the diff is actually the diff in the Ralliart's fairly strong. It's a common swap for the X guys. So.
Oh, that's right. Yep.
The only part is the transfer case, so kind of winging that, so that one goes out.
Well, let's hope it holds together.
But yeah, as far as like basic, like different setups, so generic one I always say to start off with, your simple bolt-ons and just an upgraded Ralliart turbo, and start there, learn the car, and enjoy it. Because once you start going after that, you start running into the typical SST problems.
Yeah. So, Jordan, one thing that I wanted to make sure that we talk about, there's only been a handful of 10-second or sub-10-second Ralliarts. Let's see, you're number 4 and number 5 is an 11. I'm sure maybe there's one or two out there that have slipped through the cracks of me finding them. So, overall, there's less than 10-second Ralliarts that have ever existed. So, I want to talk about the current setup that you have and why it's worked so well for you.
So I've actually only had one. The 10.8 that I did do was actually my first and only hit on the current setup. When I did the 11.1, I was on the twin scroll housing, the OEM twin scroll housing with the 62 millimeter, and I swapped back over to the stainless steel single scroll housing. So it's definitely a little more laggier, but top end, it definitely wakes up. So that's where the struggle came in, trying to get the car to launch. It would launch like a dream on the twin scroll housing. It was immediate boost. But now just kind of fighting with the different RPM ranges. That was the last test set that I did get to do was the 10.8. And then it just started getting too hot. So unfortunately I wasn't not able to go back out and give it a little bit more testing. But just a different testing and spending the time trying to get the launch down has probably been the most beneficial. I've probably gone through 10, 15 different revisions, just trying to see where it will launch out, what it likes, getting, just a little bit more aggressive with spark cut. The new SST mod, I think it was the V3. Once I did that, I was able to start revving, higher during spark cut. So I think that's where it opened up the availability to launch a lot better. But the current setup still definitely trying to figure that out. But the most effective was definitely that I've had was on the twin scroll housing.
Okay.
It was just a lot more instant, boost reaction off the line.
I want to talk about the strengths and weaknesses of the Ralliart platform, because I know you've, throughout this podcast so far, you've talked about them a little bit, but I want to talk about what people should be, prepared to break, maybe would be the best way to phrase it, if they're trying to go out and, match your time out there on the drag strip with their Ralliart.
Man, first off, you're going to break your wallet, man, because it's expensive. Just kind of don't rush into it. It's a lot. That's why I kind of took it in steps. Kind of figured, what's the best mix of things in each step. But definitely, it's gonna come down to a lot of plays into it is the tuner.
Yeah.
Gotta have someone that knows what they're doing with the SST. And as far as breaking stuff, I honestly haven't broken anything on the car till this day, and I've had it 8 years. So, I guess just the typical what I see online, the shift forks. So anyone looking into, beefing up an SST or Ralliart, one of the first mods I recommend is saving up for the transmission. you don't have enough to save up for a build or can't afford a build at any moment, just don't get into it.
Yeah. I feel like that's good advice. Because, not only is it a pain to pull out a transmission, but it's also, those SSTs can get very expensive to work on.
Yeah, and it's not like there's, it's possible to do it yourself, if you have done it. The other 95% of the time, you have someone trying to get out and getting too far and messing things up. So for me, just pay the pros, whoever your choice is. You have plenty of options, now for wherever you're located. So I prefer just to pay the pros with the experience and let them handle it so I know it's done right.
For sure, yeah. So, Jordan, looking back 8 years ago, you think you would still, knowing what you know now, you would still pick up this Ralliart, or you'd hold out for the Evo?
I think I would still stick with the Ralliart. Definitely just learned a lot. Like I said, it's an underappreciated car, so
yeah,
that was just kind of fuels you more to do more and kind of show what it can do, just
for
because
sure.
people don't really expect it.
Definitely. And that leads me perfectly into my next question, Jordan. What is it about this car that motivates you to not only to keep pushing it, but to keep putting money into it?
Just the fact that, it's not an Evo. I get it a lot all the way around here. I have a bunch of friends, in Evos, and they're just always like, hey, man, when are you going to buy an Evo? When are you going to get an Evo? And, I just always post back like, hey, man, when are you going to join the 10-second club? When are you going to go to the... So it's just a lot of, the friendly fire there. I love the competition again. It's just always fun to have there. And yeah, just being the underdog.
Don't need a, what do they say? Don't need a rectangle gas cap lid to go fast.
Yeah, I always get that comment too. Oh, it's still round cap.
So, Jordan, I want to talk about your goals for this year. Because I know, you said earlier that 10.8 you had, you didn't really get to push it more than you wanted to because it was starting to get hot. So what do you plan to do for this season?
Just a little bit more testing, testing out the different, launch RPMs. That 10.8 pass was actually, I showed up to the track and they closed it.
That's right. I remember you telling me that now.
So was literally driving on the way home and was on a long stretch of freeway, and I was like, you know what? Let's just see what it could do. Car full of tools and a couple 3-5-gallon gas jugs in the back. And so the 10.8 was actually with the car full of, tools and gas jugs, and I was just very, very upset I didn't get a run at the track. So I was like, well, I'm getting a run in no matter what. As far as through the year, I got my eye on the Arizona record for fastest 4B11. There's 2 Evos that are faster than me, so definitely my goal is to make the fastest 4B11 a Ralliart.
Heck yeah.
There's 2 right before me. There's a 10.7 that was set years ago by Roberto, and then the 10.6, I forget the exact number, but that was set by Nathan. That night actually was the same night that I actually run my original 11.1 time when I shook things up. So now my goal is to beat Nathan. 10.60 is probably, I would say, my current goal for this year.
Heck yeah.
Become the Arizona's fastest 4B and have the fastest, I tell everybody, the fastest Evo in Arizona is a fake Evo. So
I love that.
Getting through the heat. It's just too hot to even touch the car. I'll go out there once a week and just start it. But I want to get back to the track. I'm trying to find other, what the nearest tracks and events are, because our local track actually closed down, so I don't have a track now.
Oh, man.
So, but I have a couple parts that I'm looking into, and just kind of really no big changes from here on out. I think I'm going to ride this setup for a while and see how far I can tweak it. The launch wasn't all that great as well. So I'm sure if I can get a better launch, can bump myself up a little bit more and get closer there.
Man, you break into that top 3, you're really going to shake it up.
That's the plan. I think I was a 10.88 and Cosmic was a 10.80. So definitely
10.88 and a 10.84.
10.84, yeah. So 0.04 away. So I'm confident I can get there. Maybe shake Cosmic up a little bit to get them back active at the tracks. I want to see their cars back out again.
Yeah, for sure. This episode of the MitsuTimes podcast is brought to you by NRG Ops. NRG Ops is a veteran-owned and operated company with more than 10 years in aftermarket automotive support, ranging from 12-volt accessories to performance modifications and even part design. They are dedicated to getting or building you the best and some of the most unique parts available. You can be assured that everything sold from NRG Ops are only products that they would use on their own personal vehicles. They've worked with many vendors, manufacturers, local businesses, as well as big-name companies in order to perfect their craft and design some of the best products on the market. Check out all they have to offer at nrgops.com. So do you have is there a time in your head that you want to shoot for, or is it just that 10.4 and then kind of work it from there?
The time in mind right now is I've been stuck with like a 10.5. I want to try to see how close I can get to a 10.50, so I can be, just tell myself it's an official mid 10-second car.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. As far as after that, it's definitely gonna start taking a lot. Have to definitely been looking into making the move to aftermarket ECU. Just still, kind of stuck on which route to go. I don't have any local tuners in here for me that know the SST well, so it's basically stuck to eTune, and that's kind of my biggest obstacle right now. Might have to just make a drive out to Cosmic one day and just take a week-long trip and just haul the car out and be like, let them do the magic.
Yep. Get it dialed in. If they can make a couple of rocket ships before, they can still do it.
Oh yeah, that's for sure.
So Jordan, I want to kind of change the pace here because people, I think I'm right in saying that people are hesitant to purchase an SST car, and people who have already purchased an SST car are hesitant to modify their SST car. So I want to get your advice for people out there listening who have an SST car or who are thinking about buying an SST car.
My biggest advice is maintenance. Can't stress that enough. Up until 2 years ago when I sent my transmission out, so I had this SST for 6 years straight. It's been through, I've probably went through 5-6 different tuners, 4 or 5 different setups. And I just always kept maintenance on top. Always. I would change the SST fluid once every, probably 6 months. Always, Diet Queen, new filter, just taking care of it, getting an SST cooler, especially out here. I needed the SST cooler, and I also have a Datsun heated sump as well. So definitely maintenance, and depending on location, I would also, one of the other items we do recommend is, a heated sump, like a Datsun unit. I think SSP also has a unit as well, but I personally have run the Datsun one, and helps getting the SST up to temp, so you're not driving it cold and don't want slipping clutches in cold liquid. But yeah, just maintenance. Can't stress that enough.
Heck yeah. All right, Jordan, so let's shift over to someone thinking about buying the Ralliart, or someone who already has a Ralliart and they just want to get maybe just a little bit more power out of it. They're not, looking to break any records. What advice would you give them?
Start small. Make sure you obviously have, all your bolt-ons, intercooler piping, intercooler, exhaust, fueling. Make sure you're going to have enough fuel. It's the big part. And yeah, start small. Upgraded Ralliart turbo. Don't go shooting for the moon right away because it's going to be a very, very big learning curve. The upgraded Ralliart turbos are a very good step for a beginner. It's not nothing, you're not going out all out or all crazy. It's definitely manageable to, understand the car, what it's going to do. And it's going to teach you a lot how to drive it as well.
Heck yeah. If I could add any advice, it would be to take it to the track and get some times. Our Ralliart list is not as big as it should be.
Yeah, definitely take it out. I know it's definitely discouraging. It's, for a lot of people, it's already just a Ralliart, as they say. And so it's definitely discouraging, easily discouraging for a lot of people to actually just take it out to the track. At first, just take it to the track and see how you feel at the track. Don't even worry about the time slips or anything like that. Just go out and have fun and see how you feel about it. Maybe you find out, hey, that's actually not interesting to me. Maybe you want to get into something else, like Auto X or road course or something like that. There's still other things to do, but definitely just get it out there and don't even worry about the time slip. Just go out and have fun.
Yeah, just go out there and have fun with it. Don't be afraid to push it to the limits. That's what it was made for.
Yeah, it was. I think the first time I took mine out and, I did, a couple upgrades and stuff, and I was like, man, this car is going to be fast, and I went out, I was like a 13-something, and I was like, just like disappointed, like let down, but I was just like, just don't let that discourage you. It's easy, very easily to get discourged, and, you're not going to go out breaking records the first time, so.
I keep all those slips, and I know, people think that it's, it can be discouraging, especially if you do some type of modification, you run a slower time. But to me, those slips are a sign of where I've come from and how far the car's gone. Even if, like I said, even if you modify and you go slower, hey, that cold air intake might not be beneficial. But at least you have the data to back it up.
Yeah, I've done the same too. I've kept all my time slips, and when I first started saving them, I'm like, the pile was like, man, this is a depressing pile. And as time went on, you're adding slips to there, and you see it, going faster and faster and faster, and it's a lot. It definitely feels a lot better once you start adding to the slips. But
for sure,
when you first start out and start building your little pile, and you're like, man, what is this?
And sometimes it's fun just to see how you can improve yourself, and without adding anything to the car. Just wow, I shaved off 0.2 on the 60 foot.
Yeah, and that's the big part. Checking like as you mentioned, the 60 foot. At the end of the day, you keep track of each slip, and I would always just write down on the slip where I launched at, what type of launch I did, what I changed throughout those, so I can get back home and the next day relook at it and compare, hey, I did this on this launch and it worked out for me this way, and I tried this on this one and kind of didn't go my way on this one. That's when you kind of just start seeing what worked for you in the car. Yep,
I absolutely agree. So, Jordan, I always like to talk, with a list that doesn't necessarily have too many movements at the top. You've been really the only one. I want to talk about, when do you think we'll see a new number one on the Ralliart list?
Honestly, I don't know. I think, the guys at Cosmic are just waiting for a reason to come back out. I think if we see a new number two, it'll shake things up.
Yeah.
But outside of that, I honestly don't know. I definitely would like to see them, get back out to the track. When I was starting to get very involved in my, in my Ralliart build, that was when Cosmic was active at the tracks. And now that I'm done, I was like, man, I still would love to see them, still see them be out and active. But I think it's just kind of just need a reason to pull it back out. It's not that they're not interested or anything yet, but maybe it's just kind of sitting on the back burner for now. Working on a lot of other things, putting a lot of time into other platforms and stuff. But I'm sure it's still there, ready to come out at any time. For sure.
Yeah, I agree. It's good to see them pushing other platforms, and I definitely think if we see another 9-second Ralliart, we'll see the return of the yellow one for sure.
Yeah, definitely a 9-second run would definitely wake it up. That's when I was looking at the list too, and it was just always either Cosmic or RP, and I'm like, man, I was like, I gotta get up there and kind of stir the pot a little bit.
Absolutely. I think they would both love that. But, I also wanted to say, Jordan, that, you look at Cosmic's car and, it's on full slicks and it looks like a tin can car with probably a carbon roof and a Lexan back window, whereas yours looks like a stock car.
Yeah, that's definitely, I'm kind of getting to the point, it's cool saying, hey, full weight, it's a street car. But, at the end of the day, they went out for a drag racing record and they have a drag racing car. So it's definitely going to be a lot more challenging trying to compete with a drag car when you want to, kind of stick to the street car type thing, so that's definitely where looking into where I can get some weight reduction. It's kind of tough because I'm not getting rid of AC.
Right.
And I'm like,
still got to drive it.
I don't want to rip off the heater, and so I'm just like, yeah, definitely. It's just, that's where the biggest advantage is, having the drag spec car and being able to yank out and, having the weight a lot down.
Right.
But, it's also cool to have a fun, fast street car as well.
Definitely. I think if you, tore it apart and made it into a drag car, you would come to regret it soon enough. That you couldn't just take it out on the street and have fun with it.
Yeah, that's for sure. And, I'm never going to, just me personally, I don't, I'm not going to use well, mine's a street car, if I did this, it would be doing this, and this, it's, if you're a street car, you're a street car. There's a drag car, there's a drag car. I don't like using the street car the weight as an excuse. It's at the end of the day, it's, if you want to get into the drag racing competition, you got to do drag racing things. Me personally, that's not for me. So I'm going to stick to what I know and street car.
I don't blame you there. It gets expensive fast. So, Jordan, I wanted to talk about the events that you plan to attend in 2023 and 2024, even if it's not with the car, so people can come and either ask you questions or see the car in action.
So as far as events, our local track closed down, so unfortunately I don't have any exciting events. There is one track left here in the state. It's about a 2-hour drive out in Tucson. It's going to be Import Face-Off out in October, I believe, 29th. So that's definitely the event that I plan to take it back out and start the pot again. 2024, I honestly don't know. I haven't seen anything posted. It's just been a bummer. We don't have any tracks here anymore. We used to have 2 local tracks, and now we have none. So,
wow,
it's gonna be get a truck, a trailer the car way out there, make a 2-hour drive, spend all day out there, and it just starts getting a hassle, So, but I definitely do plan on making the Import Face-Off out at the end of October in Tucson.
Well, good. Hopefully, once the Import Face-Off schedule for 2024 comes out, it'll have some more down in your area.
Yeah, I'm trying to see. I've been wanting to make a trip out to Cali, but again, then out Cali, you're talking about a 5-hour 5-hour distance, and yeah, it's just starting to get tough now, unfortunately.
Yeah. And I know, some people don't like it, and I swear they don't sponsor the website, but that's where I guess a draggy would be, come in handy.
Yes, definitely. I was always hesitant on that too. I'm like, it's not an actual time slip, and as I started taking it, I was taking it to the track with me to actually like compare times, and all my time slips were actually faster than what my draggy was always showing. So once I saw that, I was like, okay, it's pretty accurate, and it's not giving me an inflated number, or I guess in that case, a lower running time.
Yeah. Okay. So Jordan, where can people find and follow you on social media so they can check this Ralliart out some more?
Yeah, so I just actually recently created like an Instagram profile kind of for the car and the adventures recently, just because I didn't want it flooding over on the personal side.
Oh yeah, I don't blame you.
But yeah, it's I have it on Instagram. It's J_R_performance. And that's my page kind of for the car there. And I haven't posted in a while. Again, it's just been too hot, but in a couple months when it starts cooling off, definitely gonna be back active again and posting a lot more there.
Heck yeah. Well, good. All right, so finally, Jordan, I would give people a chance to give a shout-out or a thank you to all those who've helped them out along the way. I know you've had a lot of people who've had your back over the years, so is there anybody you want to give a shout-out to?
Yeah, I always got to start with the wife. I know it can be scary showing them, the receipts of everything that you purchase and, constant stuff showing at the doorstep. But, she's definitely been a big supporter, her and my kids. The kids love the car. That's also what kind of fuels me to keep going. I've considered selling the car previously and, want to get into a different platform, but just haven't been able to let it go. So it's definitely been, one of the biggest pushes from my wife and my children there. Definitely out to Chet Rickerman, the tuner. He's tuned me on a few different setups now, and I'm just amazed at how he has it, just kind of lit me up one time and tell you, hey, what the hell are you thinking? You're always changing stuff. It's always been a constant change, but he's always been there to help me out, even, just simple questions or, hey, I want to test this. I know it might not work, but, do you mind if we test this? And he's just always down to do stuff like that. So that's definitely good having him in my corner. Janari as well. When I first reached out to him, didn't push me, to purchase the turbo, just gave me all the information I needed. And even since I've had the turbo, he's, randomly sent me parts, in the mail, like, hey, I made an upgraded wastegate actuator. Test this out and see what it does.
Oh, nice.
So it's definitely, that was definitely a big help too, and just seeing how, how involved he's been in with my car and actually, interested in getting it to go, push it further. That's definitely been one of the biggest helps as well. Outside of that, just all the friends and people that, say, hey, it's just Lancer, it's not an Evo. That's definitely, a big shout out to them. Makes you biggest fuel there to keep it going. And, major shout out to Mike Melendez as well, with his Ralliart. And we're just always having the friendly competition and, taking shots at each other to push each other forward. So he's always there and just constantly, random late nights, just kind of stirring it up. So that's definitely been fun there as well.
Heck yeah. Awesome. Well, Jordan, I'm so glad that we got a chance to, come on here and tell your story. And I hope that we can, motivate some more Ralliart guys to take their car to the track, not be afraid to modify it, and to, not to call anyone out, but to take your advice on the forums until they can match your times.
Yeah, definitely, and it's definitely time to start seeing some people step up. There's been a few builds going on for a while, and it's always coming out soon. So just ready to start seeing people come out swinging. And yeah, even now the people that are already into the Ralliart or SST, see them push it further and see more get involved.
Definitely.
For the first time with the Ralliart or an SST.
Yep. Heck yeah. Well, thanks, Jordan. Thanks for everything you do for our community, man. I love to see you getting on there and answering people's questions, no matter what time of day it is, and helping people out. You're crucial to that community. So thank you.
Yeah, I definitely just try to help out, where I can, and just kind of provide the information, not just saying, oh, don't,
sell it and buy an Evo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's definitely just try to share the information. It's scary, when someone does get into a Ralliart and scared to ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Just ask them.
Yep. Heck yeah. All right, Jordan. Well, thanks again, and I can't wait to see an update from you.
Alrighty, man. Sounds good. It'll be coming soon. Stay tuned later this year.
Sounds good. I'll see you at the track.
Alrighty, man. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the MitsuTimes podcast. Check out our Instagram and Facebook for daily updates. Get added to our list by going to MitsuTimes.org and clicking Submit a Slip. Thank you to all of our sponsors.